Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm glad you agreed to join us here on this divorce literacy spotlight. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll read your bio, and then after that, I'll ask you some questions about your practice.
Perfect.
So Cindy Runge has practiced law for over 30 years and is admitted to the bar in both Massachusetts and New York. She is the founder and owner of Peridot Family Law in Boston, where she focuses on family law, collaborative law, and divorce mediation. She is a member and former VP of the Massachusetts Council on Family Mediation. She is also a member of the Massachusetts Collaborative Law Council, the Family Law section of Massachusetts Bar Association, Massachusetts Academy of Trial Attorneys, and the New York State Bar Association Commission of Family and the Law. That's quite an impressive resume. So, what I was looking on, I believe it might have been your LinkedIn profile, and I'm just going to read something that I found that I thought was great from you. And it says the current state of the world only serves to remind Cindy of the reason she became a family law attorney in the first place, protecting and caring for those we love and the importance of family. In furtherance of her vision, she opened Peridot Family Law. The Peridot Stone, known for bringing peace, health, and positive growth, figuratively represents the vision of our outcome that she strives to help her clients attain based on their clients' individual goals, needs, and circumstances. I think that's great, because, well, you say the importance of the family. I mean, that's like the whole thing, right? That's since um,
What's more important? Nothing.
that's really what it comes down to. Because if you break that down, if you put it this way, if you have it solid, no matter what comes your way, you're good.
Right.
And so you're definitely taking that vision to make sure you keep that intact. And so let me ask you, so when people come to you, is I have to assume your first part of the process is ask, what their vision is. I mean, because I heard there's life after divorce, right? And so the
There is.
question is, what does that look like for each
Yeah,
person?
it really depends on the person. I think that is something that we do when we meet with folks. We try to get a sense of, when this is over, what do you want this to look like? Are there small kids? Have you been married for a long time? What are the circumstances? And every couple, it's different.
Yeah, so I'm looking 30 years of the law. So I'm thinking about how things were 30 years ago, and I see you get the family law, you've done some litigation, and now you got mediation. So you go from being a fighter to a peacemaker, or so. But I guess the question is, when someone says, "All right, we're going to fight," what percent ends up having? They end up settling anyways, and you wonder why did you start the fight to begin with?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've my career, I started out doing real estate primarily for 10 years, and then I was working in the museum field and I was dealing with intellectual property, so kind of
Okay.
everything from the dirt below and everything from the dirt above. And then I went through my own family law event, and so that woke me up, so to speak, to family law practice because I never had an interest in it prior to that because
Okay.
it didn't resonate for me.
Right.
Uh, and I started off by doing bar advocate work, people who are involved with DCF and made my way into the divorce sphere. I started off with, a lot of mediation and sometimes we'd be mediating, who gets the TV. But as time went on, we were looking at, well, who gets the RSUs and how many? Um, so it's been an interesting process. Um, One of the things that I really like about family law is just that it is a way to help people. And having been through the process myself a long time ago,
Right.
I can understand a lot of the feelings that people might have. Being afraid for their future and wondering what what it's going to look like when their divorce is over.
So having gone through a divorce yourself, looking back now, and if someone was going to start off going through a divorce, what advice would you give someone to look for, like the first step, just even thinking about going through a divorce?
Honestly, I think having a good therapist
Okay.
is going to be really important, because even for folks that have never been to a therapist, this is a life-changing event. It's like on that list of, the top 10 things that are
Yeah.
major. Divorce is one of them. And you really need to have a good support system in place. And I think doing your homework, talking to different professionals, finding out about what you need to do if you're going to be going down that road. Most people who I meet basically have been thinking about it for some time. And it's not unusual for them to show up 6 months, a year, sometimes longer, after I've initially met with them,
Okay.
because it's a long process.
Right. So when folks are looking to decide who to hire, what should they look for? Because it's got to be the right fit, I imagine, right? If it's a long process, you're going to be with that professional throughout the process.
Yeah, I think what's really important is finding someone that you have a good fit with. And so I think it's, a sort of an analogy might be dating. You want to meet a
Yeah.
lot of different people. So not only can you find out what you do like, but what you don't like. So you want to find out what how somebody's going to approach your particular situation.
Okay. And what's been thrown out, I say the term lately is collaborative law versus a regular, typical divorce process. What's the difference, and which do you prefer?
So collaborative law involves, attorneys and professionals who are collaboratively trained. And so you go through, I think the initial training's like, I don't know, like a week long. And you, even though you're working with someone as an attorney and a client, you have a duty of care, a fiduciary duty to that client. You're also working together as a team. And we usually use a coach who's like a mental health professional, and that person helps people stay on track. So you have meetings that, everyone prepares for. They know what's going to be discussed at a particular meeting. The coach is there in case the parties get stuck or the lawyers get stuck.
Okay.
And the goal is you're going to stay around the table and come up with an agreement that you can both file with the court. If for some reason the parties aren't able to do that, then, and someone files, for example, then in a pure collaborative case, both attorneys would withdraw. So the
Okay.
idea is that there's a huge incentive for the people to finish, stay at the proverbial table and get an agreement together.
Okay. So in the beginning, everyone's on, at least in the beginning, they're on the same page that they're going to try to take this approach
Yes.
and
Right.
get, okay. All right. Now with, again, 30 years, is there any particular case that kind of impacted how you do your practice?
So it's interesting. In some ways they all do, I
Okay.
mean, certainly I had my own, but what made me, when I think about that, it makes me realize that no matter how big or how small, when it's your own situation, it has a lot more meaning.
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful of that when you're dealing with people. Oddly enough, as a result of the pandemic, I feel like, although when people come to me, I really try to encourage them to look at mediation or collaborative law, I tend to draw a lot of people who wanted to do that, but the other side, for whatever reason, didn't. So we actually have a lot of litigation cases. So although I started family law primarily with mediation, collaborative
Yeah.
law, I've kind of shifted the other way. I still try to resolve things peacefully, and when you're working with other people, you have to look out for your client. So that's what we try to do.
No, that's great. And if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
We have a contact on our website, Peridot Family Law, and my LinkedIn profile also has contact information. And yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone about questions about family law, the divorce process.
Oh, that's great. And do you have like a final thought you'd like to leave us with?
Just trust your gut. Take your time. Don't make any rash decisions. One of the things that pretty much every person going through a divorce wants is to get it over with fast.
Yeah.
But you really need to take a step back. You know, people say sometimes you spend 6 months, a year or more planning a wedding. You've been married for a long time. You need to take time to become unmarried. So
Well, that's great. Well, Cindy, this has been awesome. I definitely appreciate you joining the spotlight here.
glad to help. I hope it was helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye, Joe.